The life of the Italian Baroque painter Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio was quite tumultuous, to say the least, and that is not referring to his dramatic paintings, but to his extensive criminal record, including many fights, a murder, another alleged murder, many incarcerations, a death penalty, and a suspicious death. And there's one painting that may shed light on the most significant crime of his life, and that is the beheading of St. John the Baptist. Among many of his masterpieces that you can see here, the beheading of St. John the Baptist is the only work that he signed, and not in a conventional way as some other artists would do, in the bottom left or right corner, but he signed it in the bottom center, right below the pool of blood coming from John the Baptist's head. Is this an admission of guilt that he murdered somebody? Or is there another explanation for this unusual signature in this circumstantial murder case? Caravaggio painted the beheading of St. John the Baptist in 1608 when he was 36 years old. Unlike many other of his works, this one is not in a museum, but in the oratory of St. John's Co-Cathedral in Valletta, Malta. It's a large work measuring 370 by 520 centimeters or 150 by 200 inches. Just to remind you why John the Baptist was beheaded, the ruler of Galilee, Herod Antipas, had John imprisoned as he had criticized the ruler for divorcing his first wife and taking his sister-in-law Herodias as his second wife. One day, on Herod Antipas's birthday, his stepdaughter Salome was dancing in front of the ruler and his guests, and she did this so well that after a few drinks, Herod Antipas told her that she could ask him for whatever she wanted. The girl consulted her mom, Herod's current wife, and asked for the head of St. John the Baptist on a platter. And that brings us back to the scene by Caravaggio. John the Baptist had to be killed, and so he was taken out of his cell, and the executioner is doing what he has to do. A sword on the floor and a knife behind his back, he is in the middle of a decapitation. The servant on the left is already holding the platter on which the head is to be placed, and she will bring it soon to Herod Antipas. You can see how the jailer issues the instructions to the executioner on where he should put the head. And then there are some bystanders, like this old woman who is shocked by what is happening, and two inmates curiously look out of their cell to see what is happening. Caravaggio has kept the painting relatively clean by omitting any non-essential clues. So it is quite surprising that he has added his name below the pool of blood, especially considering that he did not sign any of his other works. If we look at his signature, it seems to read F. Michelangelo, followed by some space and then the letter O. It is clearly written in the same color as the blood. Caravaggio's first name was Michelangelo, although today we know him better by his last name Caravaggio, as there was one artist called Michelangelo that was even more famous. He probably wrote his full first name Michelangelo, but a couple of letters at the end seem to have disappeared over time. But that is not what the historical debate is about. It is about the first letter. Now, if I would ask you to identify this letter without knowing more about the story, most people would probably identify this as a lowercase f. If this is true, then this could be translated as Brother Michelangelo, where the F would be an abbreviation of the word fra, which means brother in Italian. So how did Caravaggio, with a very extensive criminal record, become a religious brother, allowing him to use the title Fra? Well, for that we need to go 2 years back in time, to May 29, 1606, the day that Caravaggio killed a young man named Ranuccio Tommasoni in Rome. The circumstances of this killing are not entirely clear, and stories range from Caravaggio having killed him during a brawl, or during a duel. but the death of Tommasoni could also have been unintentional. Whatever the truth is here, Caravaggio was potentially facing the death penalty and he decided to flee south and ended up on the island of Malta. And despite his questionable reputation as a person, the people there were honored that a famous artist like Caravaggio would visit them, and they made him a Brother of the Order of St. John. He was even knighted and became the official painter for the Order of the Knights. And before getting back to the signature, his status as a knight and brother only lasted about 6 months, as Caravaggio would obviously got himself in trouble again when he would batter down the doors of the house of an esteemed knight and proceeded to severely injure him. He was imprisoned and subsequently escaped the island of Malta. So it seems that Caravaggio signed his work in the blood coming from the head of St. John the Baptist, allegedly as a commission of guilt, as if saying Fra Michelangelo is also guilty of killing someone. Because why else would he only sign this painting, and why would he sign his name in the pool of blood? Now, there are some other people who say that instead of F. Michelangelo, it says I. Michelangelo, meaning me Michelangelo, implying an even more explicit commission of guilt, saying I, Michelangelo, have committed a murder. Now, if you like to watch or listen to one of the many crime series or podcasts nowadays, you would probably know that this signature in a pool of blood in one of his paintings 2 years after the murder is not exactly the evidence that a judge would need to convict Caravaggio. It's circumstantial evidence at best, just a little extra puzzle piece that we may need to understand Caravaggio's mind and conscience. And it's complicated, as there are no other very convincing explanations for why he only used his signature in this painting and not in other works, and why he painted it in such an unusual way. Although with the tumultuous and unconventional life that Caravaggio lived, perhaps anything is possible. Maybe he was just in a jolly mood when painting this. Now, while telling this story and showing you some more works by Caravaggio, you may have some conflicted feelings. While not all the details about the life and crimes of Caravaggio are crystal clear, it is absolutely certain based on his criminal record that we are talking about a repeat offender and possibly a murderer. So, can we enjoy the art by such a person? Just to give you a bit of an idea of his criminal record, he was already accused of murder by age 20, he was incarcerated multiple times for the possession of illegal weapons, beating a nobleman with a club, throwing a plate of artichokes in the face of a waiter, repeatedly insulting law enforcement, numerous public fights, and one time when he was late with his rent, he decided to throw some rocks through the window of his landlord. So, not exactly a model citizen, but few would disagree that he was a great painter and an innovative artist with lots of followers over the centuries. And yet, you can enter a church in Rome and 90% of the visitors are crowding in front of a painting by Caravaggio in some remote corner of the church. I'm not here to say whether we should like the work of Caravaggio or not based on his other behaviors, but it is a relevant question that each of us may have their own personal answer to. I am curious to hear if you have any thoughts about this. Well, this is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell to be alerted for future art videos. Thanks for watching.